I think that's the first step is just kind of stepping out of the nest, so to speak. Just I left home as a teenager, moved to Austin, Texas, and kind of got involved with the scene there. And when I was to try to condense a long story to short, I started out like very young, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, playing not only with my dad but with other Louisiana blues musicians like Henry Gray and a lot of guys who aren't even around anymore. And started out playing with those guys and recording with them. I even had a stint where I actually played with the guy I played in Ray. I did a tour with Loyola as a bag of guitars. And Joe Tex, used to play. I was about 13 years old, and I did dates with him. And I was just like a little guy, who people would take me on gigs with him. And Joe Tex was really cool because he did all the tricks with the microphone, and then I'd do some tricks and play the guitar with my teeth and all this kind of stuff here. So we had a nice little circus act, But I started very young, and then I started making my own records under my own name. And my first record came out in '86 called The Beginning with our Hooli Records. Well, the original title was It's a Cold Ass World, but they didn't want to name it that, so they named it The Beginning.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And we did a couple of records together, and at that point you were just beginning to release your first record, wasn't that true? Or you
on my label, you mean?
Yeah.
Before well, you and I got together and did some things, some compilation albums, which were great experiences for me, I might add. And we before that, though, my first record came out with our Hooli Records, a little small independent label, probably more famous for guys like Clifton Chenier and Lightning Hopkins, and not a commercial-driven label. And they didn't record me for commercial reasons. Nick Spitzer, who some of you guys might have heard of, he was a folklorist at the Smithsonian Institute at the time in the early '80s, and he was in Louisiana doing some work. And he heard me, met me, and he wrote to Chris Strackwich and said, that he should record me. Not so much record me because I was going to, be an MTV, success or something, but record me in the old-fashioned way as document what I was doing because it was interesting and new, and kind of culturally he thought, kind of important and should be documented. And that's how. And then Chris Strackwich wrote to me saying if I had enough songs for an album, that that he would like to release it, and I didn't at the time, but I told him yes, and he sent me a check for like $600, and I recorded a record, and and that kind of started my journey. But I think I was probably one of the last blues artists to get recorded that way, like through a folklorist or just as a documentation. I don't think well now that doesn't happen anymore. I was probably the last guy to have a folklorist kind of advocate that what you're doing should be documented. And but since that, I went on to record as far as major labels. I signed up, what was at then a pretty substantial deal with Warner Brothers in 1990, and ended up working with labels like RCA and a few other major labels. I can't remember them all. Scotty Brothers at one point. And after going through all of that, I decided that I would start my own production company and take a little bit more control of my creative, presentation. And that's how 21st Century Blues came about.